too. Now, in the past, I've been criticised for cutting off good fighters with good tales to tell. In fact, I've cut them off too soon. I'm probably guilty. My next guest has been given room to breathe and tell his story. And I'll tell you what, he deserves the space. He met the best for about 15 years. A great character, and on his night, a formidable heavyweight. On January 29th, 2000, he met Mike Tyson, the great Mike Tyson, a dangerous Mike Tyson, in front of 20,000 people at the MEM in Manchester. What a night that was. It is, of course, Julius Francis. And I spoke to him earlier on, and I started by asking him what he's up to these days.
I do a little bit. I'm still involved in the boxing world, doing a little bit of work with kids, but I mainly work with a company called Fight Fit, doing like white collar boxing and one-to-one training and stuff like that, you know.
Dude, your last fight was what, about 2006 or so? But
what we now? Yeah, it was about 2006. It was about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, yeah.
And you're just going in against good young fighters, having a laugh, having a joke, and losing on points, and coming out without a mark on your face.
That's what it seemed like. I didn't really want to go out like that. But I was going abroad a lot. I was fighting a lot in Germany. Fought a few fights over in Russia.
All the distance,
just travelling, just travelling and trying to get back on. I was trying to get back on track, but it just didn't seem to work. You know, I was getting last minute calls, like a couple of days' notice, and then, and it seemed like, I was trying, but it just wasn't working out. So, in the end, you just have to. I did just have to call it a day,
Yeah.
So as much as I love the game, I did just have to call it a day at the end.
Because, if you look at your record, it's deceptive, your record. Forget the losses, because I know you're losing against. They're good fighters, and they're unbeaten, and you're in their hometown at short notice. There's so many big names in your record. I mean that. I mean, there's Klitschko's in there, there's Maskaev in there, there's all the British guys, Williams, Skelton, and Audley. You're the only one who's fought all three of them, for a start.
I think, I am. If you look through my career, like you say, I fought somebody like, obviously the current world champion now, Vitaly Klitschko.
Yeah.
I fought him back. Oh, when you say back, I'm talking about way back in like '97.
It was a long while ago.
It seems like a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. Oleg Maskaev.
What about John Ruiz? About 200. John Ruiz 200 years ago.
Oh God. That seems like an age away.
Julius, just to make us both feel old, okay? Let's just go back over this. Right, I was at the Colston Hall down in Bristol that night. John Ruiz, 1994.
94?
94, brother.
Oh, God. See, now you are making me feel old.
And making me feel old as well.
Yeah, John Ruiz. It was, obviously John Ruiz is still, he went on to win a world title. And,
several times.
Did what he did. And now he's going to be fighting again this year.
Fighting David. Just talked to David earlier.
Fighting David Hay for a world title, He's got a world title shot. I suppose it was a little bit difficult for me because I actually came into boxing late. For those who don't know about my kind of life in boxing, I came into boxing quite late. I didn't start turn pro until I was 28.
Wow.
So it was kind of late. A lot of people say, "What, you never turned pro till 28?" I said, "Well, 28 for me that was the right time."
Yeah. For heavyweight, no problem.
But as a fighter, guys usually come in kind of like 5, 6, 7 years earlier than that, as pros, But yeah, it was the right time for me, and I have been fortunate enough to have fought some of the biggest names in boxing over the years that I've been in the game, over here and abroad. So I've always, as far as I was concerned, always stepped up to the challenge.
Yeah, and you probably fought about another half a dozen guys who either won titles or fought for proper titles. The likes of Zeljko Mavrovic, that type of thing,
Yeah. Zeljko Mavrovic, another one of those guys that I think he was a bit unlucky not to have, because he came up against a good Lennox Lewis.
Yeah, good Lennox.
And Zeljko was, obviously he was European champion at the time, and he was a very, very good fighter. I think one of the better fighters that never actually became world champion, came up against Lennox.
I think
best,
I think you do well now. And what I find on is I've just printing off your record here, so I've got the advantage that you don't have. And when I look at it here, and it reminds me that I remember back in 1997 when I worked in the early days of working for the Daily Telegraph, I worked for back then, they flew me over to the Ulster Hall to watch you beat Gary Delaney that night for the vacant title. And you couldn't get that now. They'd look at me like I was mad. If I asked the paper now, oh, it's a British title fight, they'd look at you like you're crazy.
And I think it's very sad. I think it's very sad that the British title is not doesn't have so much emphasis. There's not so much emphasis on being a British champion anymore. You know, as far as I was concerned, when I came into boxing as a professional boxer, my ultimate goal was to become British champion because I'd heard so much about this title and knowing kind of a little bit about boxing over the years before I became a professional boxer. I think being a British champion to me was my ultimate goal. Yeah. Because it to me it was the symbol of being a champion of your own country, the whole of your own country, and
it carried weight.
I think it did. I think when you look back on it, and you've got great fighters like Henry Cooper, who was British Empire champion as it was known then. And we look back on people like that and say that he was a great fighter. I think he defended his British title 9 or 10 times.
Yeah, over like a 12 or 15 year period.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and you know, over the years, I think because of Sky and things like that, that the British title has lost its glamour and stuff like that. But for me, I don't think I'd ever be prouder of winning the title than when I won my British title, because that was my ultimate goal, you know.